My name's Charlie Duke. I was fortunate to have been an Apollo astronaut. We had 9 missions to the moon. I was fortunate to work on 5 of those missions.
Charles Duke was the youngest person to walk on the moon, and his 1972 mission remains one of the most debated events in space history.
One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Many believe he saw a massive wall made of blocks that stretched for miles across the lunar landscape. While NASA says it was just a ridge, the straight lines tell a different story. And get this, the sudden stop of the Apollo program right after this discovery has led many to believe we were told to stay away. We are breaking down the secret transcripts and the strange sightings that kept us grounded for over half a century. Hidden structures in space. Basically, the transcripts from the mission show the astronauts were surprised by what they were seeing. They talked about the beauty of the place, but there were moments of confusion too. Hands down, the Apollo 16 mission provided some of the clearest photos of the lunar surface, but some of those photos seem to show things that should not be there. People have pointed out what look like craters with perfectly straight edges. In nature, craters are usually round or oval because of how space rocks hit the ground. But here is the catch. Some of these formations have sharp 90-degree angles. Charles Duke has spent a lot of time talking about his faith and his family since he got back, but he has stayed mostly quiet about the alien theories. Still, the images from his mission continue to circulate among people who think NASA is hiding something big. A lot of people are confused about why the footage from that era is sometimes blurry, or why certain photos were edited. NASA says it is just how the cameras worked in 1972. But what many can confirm is that the mission changed Duke forever. He left a photo of his family on the lunar surface, which is a famous story, but some think he left more than just a photo. One of the most overlooked aspects of this mission is the geological survey. They were looking for something called the Cayley Formation. It was supposed to be volcanic, but it turned out to be made of crushed rock from massive impacts. But get this, inside those impact zones, researchers claim to see shapes that look like ruins. We are talking about blocks that are hundreds of feet long. These are not tiny pebbles. They are massive structures that look like they were moved into place. This is a key detail because it suggests the moon might have a history we do not know about yet. Nobody expected this to happen, but the Apollo program just ended. We had the rockets built and the astronauts trained. Why stop when you are winning? The official reason is that it cost too much money. Back then, NASA was using about 4% of the entire United States budget. Today, it is less than 0.5%. That is a huge drop. But many people think the money was just a cover story. The real reason might have been what Charles Duke and his friends found waiting for them in the dark craters of the moon. Some theorists suggest that the moon is actually an ancient outpost for a civilization that lived on Earth before the Ice Age. They believe the craters are not from impacts, but are actually the remains of massive dome cities that collapsed over millions of years. This sounds wild, but when you look at the height of some of these ridges, they are over 15,000 feet tall. That is taller than many mountains on Earth. And get this, some of these ridges are perfectly straight for over 50 miles. Nature usually likes curves and messy shapes, but the moon looks like it was designed on a drawing board. There are even rumors that the astronauts were told to use a special code when they saw something they could not explain. In some transcripts, they talk about seeing music or flashes in a way that sounds like they are trying to hide the truth from the public radio feed. One of the most intense moments was during a moonwalk when Duke mentioned a giant house in the distance. NASA says it was just a rock named House Rock. But researchers have zoomed in on the photos and they see what looks like windows and a roof. It is not that simple though, because light and shadow can play tricks on your eyes in space. The moon has no atmosphere to scatter light, so shadows are pitch black and the sun is blindingly bright. This creates a high contrast world where every pebble looks like a mountain. But even with that in mind, the geometric shapes found in the Apollo 16 mission photos are hard to ignore. We are talking about structures that look like bridges crossing over deep canyons. Some people believe these were part of a massive mining operation that took place thousands of years ago. They think the moon was stripped of its minerals and then abandoned. What most people do not realize is that Charles Duke also took part in the Apollo 11 mission as the voice in mission control. He He was the one talking to Neil Armstrong when they landed. He knew every detail of every mission. If anyone knew the real reason we stopped going, it would be him. But he has always stayed loyal to the official story. See, the mystery is not just about what he saw, but about why everyone stopped talking about it once they got back to Earth. It feels like a massive secret was shared among a very small group of people. But there was something even stranger hidden in the shadows of the lunar mountains. Truth behind abandoned moon plans. The move to stop going to the moon was a shock to everyone in the 1970s. We had won the race against the Soviets and we were the kings of space. But then, the government just pulled the plug. Everyone is obsessed with the idea of a cover-up, but we have to look at the facts too. The United States was dealing with a lot of problems at home. There was a big war in Vietnam and the economy was struggling. Many are not seeing the truth here though. Even with those problems, we had already paid for the next few missions. It would have been cheaper to fly them than to cancel them. So here is the deal. The Apollo 17 mission was the last one, but it was never meant to be the end. Apollo 18 was already being planned with a full crew. They were going to explore even more dangerous parts of the moon. But get this. The missions were canceled, and the rockets were put in museums. It felt like we were running away from something. And some people say that the astronauts saw things on the moon that scared the government. There are rumors of lights moving in the craters and strange objects following the command modules. Charles Duke was part of the era that saw the peak of NASA's power. He saw how much work went into every single launch. The Saturn V rocket was a beast. It stood over 360 feet tall and weighed over 6 million pounds. It was the most powerful machine ever built. To just stop using it seems like a waste of perfect technology, and that is putting it lightly. We had the ability to build a base on the moon by 1980, but we chose to build the space shuttle instead. The shuttle could only go into low Earth orbit. It could not even get close to the moon. Many people think this was a strategic move to hide what was happening on the lunar surface. If we are not there, we cannot see what is going on. This is where the mystery gets deeper. While we were staying home, other countries started looking at the moon with their own probes. The Soviets took photos that showed strange spires and tall towers. These towers were miles high. See, on Earth, a tower that high would fall over because of gravity and wind. But on the moon, there is no wind and very little gravity. A structure could stand for millions of years without ever breaking. Basically, the theory is that the moon is an artificial satellite. Some scientists have pointed out that the moon is exactly the right size and at exactly the right distance to perfectly cover the sun during an eclipse. The odds of that happening by accident are billions to 1. This leads to the wild idea that the moon was placed there on purpose. If it is an artificial object, then who put it there? And what is inside it? This is a key detail that many researchers focus on when they talk about the hollow moon theory. They believe the moon was brought here as a monitoring station to watch over the Earth. And get this, when the Apollo 12 crew crashed their lunar module's ascent stage into the surface, the moon rang like a bell for over an hour. Scientists were baffled. A solid rock should not do that. It suggested the moon has a giant metal shell hidden under the dust. If the moon is hollow, it could be the biggest base in the galaxy. This would explain why we were told to leave and never come back. Maybe the owners of the moon did not want us poking around their home. It sounds like a movie, but the seismic data is a real piece of evidence that is hard to explain away. A lot of people are confused about the black budget programs that followed the Apollo era. Some think that while we told the public we were done with the moon, we actually continued to go there in secret. They believe that a secret space program has been mining the moon for decades, using technology that is far beyond what we see in the news. This would mean that the rockets we see today are just a distraction. Hands down, the most controversial part of this theory is the idea that we have already built cities on the dark side of the moon. The dark side of the moon is never visible from Earth because the moon is tidally locked. This means we only ever see one side. It would be the perfect place to hide a base. See, if you put something on the backside, no telescope on Earth could ever find it. This is why NASA and other space agencies are so interested in the lunar orbiters. They are the only things that can see what is happening on the other side. And some of the photos coming back from those orbiters show lights in areas that should be completely dark. These are not reflections of the sun, because they happen when the area is in shadow. There are also claims of a massive structure called the monolith that was spotted by astronauts. It is described as a perfectly rectangular stone that stands out from the jagged rocks around it. It looks like it was cut with a laser. People have connected this to the ancient astronaut theory, suggesting that the moon is a giant tomb or a library of human history. If Charles Duke saw anything like that, it would explain why he turned to faith so strongly after his mission. Seeing something that proves we are not alone would be a life-changing experience for anyone. What most people do not realize is that the amount of fuel needed to get to the moon is massive. You need to reach a speed of over 25,000 miles per hour to break out of Earth's gravity. It is a dangerous and expensive trip. If we stopped going, there had to be a very good reason. Many are not seeing the truth here because they think it is just about the money. But we spend more on a single year of military testing than we spent on the entire Apollo program. The math just does not add up if you only look at the budget. One of the wildest theories is that the moon is a giant soul catcher or a recycling station for human consciousness. This sounds very out there, but some ancient texts describe the moon as a place where spirits go after they leave the body. While this is not scientific, it shows how much humans have always felt that there is something special and scary about the moon. If the astronauts found evidence of this, the government would definitely want to keep it a secret to prevent a global panic. But the most shocking evidence was found in the blurry background of the mission videos. Mysteries of Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter. Even though we stopped sending people to the moon for a long time, we never stopped looking at it. In 2009, NASA sent the Lunar Reconnaissance Orbiter to map the surface in amazing detail. This camera is so good it can see the tracks left by the lunar rovers from the 1970s. It can even see the flags in the bottom parts of the lunar modules. But here is the catch. While NASA uses these photos to prove we actually landed, others use them to find more anomalies. They have found things that look like entrances to underground bases and perfectly square holes in the ground. One of the most famous finds is a place called the Aristarchus crater. This spot is much brighter than the rest of the moon. It looks like it is glowing. Astronauts from many different missions reported seeing flashes of light coming from this area. It is not just a rumor. There are official reports of these lights. Some scientists say it is just gas escaping from the ground, but others are not so sure. And get this, the shapes inside the crater look very geometric. There are walls and bridges that do not seem to fit the pattern of a random explosion. Basically, there are areas on the moon that look like they have been paved. We are talking about flat surfaces that are hundreds of feet wide. Nature does not usually make flat paved roads. Hands down, the most interesting area is near the Tsiolkovsky crater. Photos from orbit show what looks like a long, thin needle sticking up from the ground. It is over 5 miles high. It is so thin that it cannot be a mountain. Some people call it the Shard. They think it is a giant antenna or part of a collapsed elevator that used to connect the moon to a space station. A lot of people are confused about why we do not have a live feed of the moon today. We have thousands of satellites orbiting Earth, but we do not have a constant eye on our closest neighbor. Why is that? Many are not seeing the truth here. They think it is just a lack of interest, but the moon is a very busy place. Recent missions from China and India have shown that the moon has a lot of valuable resources. There is water ice at the South Pole and a rare gas called helium-3 that could power the entire Earth for thousands of years. This gas is worth billions of dollars per ton. Everyone is obsessed with the idea of aliens, but it might be even simpler than that. Maybe the structures on the moon are from an ancient human civilization that lived there before a big disaster on Earth. This theory suggests that the pyramids in Egypt and the walls on the moon were built by the same people. Charles Duke left a photo of his family in the dust, and that photo is now bleached white by the sun's radiation. But the rocks around it have stayed the same for billions of years. This shows how well things are preserved up there. If someone built a city 1,000,000 years ago, it would still look brand new today. See, the moon has no wind, no rain, and no tectonic plates to move the ground around. Everything that happens there stays there forever. This makes it the perfect place to store historical records. Some believe there are hidden vaults under the surface that contain the technology of the gods. if NASA found these vaults during the Apollo missions, they would have had to stop the program to analyze what they found in secret. This is a key detail because it explains the 50-year gap. It took us that long to understand the alien technology we found in the craters. And get this, some researchers claim that the moon is actually much older than the Earth. They have found moon rocks that are over 5 billion years old. The Earth is only about 4.5 billion years old. This means the moon was already here when the Earth was still forming. This destroys the theory that the moon was a piece of the Earth that broke off during a collision. If the moon came from somewhere else, then it might be a giant ship that was moved into orbit to help life grow on our planet. Without the moon, our tides would be different, and the Earth might wobble too much for us to live here. There are still many rumors in the air, but what many can confirm is that the moon is not just a boring rock. It is a place of mystery that we are only just beginning to understand again. The data from the latest orbiters is giving us more questions than answers. Every time we zoom in on a new crater, we find something that looks a bit too perfect to be natural. This is why the new race to the moon is so important. We need to go back and see these things with our own eyes, instead of just looking at blurry photos from miles above. The thing is, some people believe the moon acts as a giant mirror for our thoughts. They think the structures people see are just projections of our own minds. But this does not explain the physical data or the seismic readings. The ringing moon is a physical fact. The high-resolution photos are physical facts. We cannot just ignore them. If we are going back to the moon to build bases, we are going to run into these anomalies sooner or later. Hopefully this time the government will be more open about what they find. What most people do not realize is that the moon is actually moving away from us at a rate of about 1.5 inches per year. In millions of years, the moon will be so far away that it will no longer stabilize the Earth's orbit. This means we are living in a very special time in history, where the moon is perfectly positioned to help us. If the moon is an artificial object, its makers might have known this. They might have timed everything perfectly to allow human civilization to rise. One of the wildest theories involves the holographic moon. Some people have filmed what look like moon waves moving across the surface. They believe the moon we see in the sky is actually a giant hologram projected by someone to hide what is really there. This sounds like the Matrix, but there are videos online that show these strange ripples. NASA says it is just atmospheric distortion from Earth's air, but the theorists say the ripples happen even when the air is perfectly still. If the moon is a hologram, then what is it hiding? But going back means facing whatever it was that made us leave in the first place. Final words on moon conspiracies. Now we are finally getting ready to go back with the Artemis program. This is named after the twin sister of Apollo, and the goal is to put a woman and a person of color on the moon for the first time. But get this, we are not going back to the same places Charles Duke visited. We are headed to the South Pole. This is a place where the sun almost never sets on the peaks and never rises in the deep craters. It is one of the coldest places in the entire solar system. For starters, we are going there because of the water. If we can find enough ice, we can make oxygen and rocket fuel right there on the moon. This is a key detail because it means we can stay for a long time. We are talking about building a permanent base called the Gateway. This will be a station that orbits the moon and allows astronauts to go down to the surface whenever they want. But a lot of people are confused about why it took us so long to get this started. If we had the technology in 1972, why did it take over 50 years to do it again? Some say we needed to wait for the technology to get good enough so we could defend ourselves if we found something we did not like. Nobody expected this to happen, but the private sector is now leading the way. Companies like SpaceX and Blue Origin are building landers that are much bigger than the ones used by Charles Duke. These new ships can carry tons of cargo and dozens of people. It is a whole new era. But here is the deal. As we get closer to landing, the old rumors are starting to surface again. People are wondering if the new cameras will be censored, or if we will finally get to see the truth about the structures on the moon. Many are not seeing the truth here, but the moon is the gateway to the rest of the solar system. If we can master the moon, we can go to Mars. But we have to deal with the lunar mysteries first. Whether it is a giant wall, a glass tower, or just a bunch of weird rocks, we need to know for sure. Charles Duke is now in his 90s, and he is one of the last people alive who can tell us what it was really like to be there. His story is a reminder of how far we have come and how much we still have to learn. The thing is, we are living in a time where secrets are harder to keep. With so many different countries and companies going to the moon, someone is bound to find the truth. If there are ruins from an ancient civilization, they will be found. If there is an alien base, it will be spotted. We are on the verge of the biggest discovery in human history, and it is all happening right in our backyard. The moon has been watching us for millions of years, and now it is time for us to go back and see what it has been hiding from us all this time. Basically, the theory of the Indus rock formations is about to be tested. If those rocks turn out to be metal or glass, the entire world will change overnight. We have to be ready for the possibility that our history is not what we were taught in school. The moon is a giant puzzle piece, and once we put it in place, we might see a much bigger picture of the galaxy. It is an exciting and scary time to be alive. Do you think the government is hiding the truth about what is on the moon, or is it all just a big misunderstanding? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe for more space mysteries.